Now, if we're looking back years from now and reflecting on retirement, what sort of things would you want to have said, say that you've accomplished or done to say that you've nailed retirement?
Some people have real clear retirement goals, and I don't think that I did. And I don't know if I'm happy that I did or not. Sometimes I wish I committed to something more, maybe volunteering or whatever, but then other points, I don't want to have to be responsible to anyone else. So I have that back and forth sometimes as far as, well, should I be doing more with this time that I have? And then other times I say,
To me, it almost feels like going back to my childhood, because when we got up in the morning during the summer and was no school, it's like, what are we going to do today? It's like, well, there's some friends around. Let's go play baseball, or let's go to the park. And there was no nervousness or anxiety to have to get something done. And that's kind of what we're doing now.
Tracy and Tom Untiet, welcome to Saturday State of Mind. We really appreciate you joining us for this chat where we have an opportunity to get to know you better. This is, I think, the first interview that Jess and I have done where I haven't personally worked with people in an advisory capacity. You've been working with one of our other advisors, but we've gotten to know you two very well through some of the other things that we do with Arcadia, our events and similar. I know, Tom, your toolbox at Camp Allen has come to the rescue now like a couple of times, right? So just being able to hang out with you guys and get to know you better is like our primary goal today, and we'll just see what happens. So thanks for joining us.
yeah, thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. I mean, I think we were just talking about this, that it's interesting. You can know people for years. I think that you came across our path in 2021. Jess, we were talking about, they actually crossed paths with us a little bit earlier. They came to one of our I guess it's an ill-fated presentation we had one time at Tuckaway Tavern.
I remember.
First
Yes.
and last.
I didn't remember then, but after you guys were clients at apple picking, we talked about one time. You're like, I don't know if you know, but we came to that event. I was like, oh gosh, that event wasn't great. So it had been some time to circle back around, but yeah.
You were elbow to elbow with some folks who were a little bit overserved, I think is how you were putting it.
It was hard to concentrate on your conversation because of their conversation.
Yeah. And the conference space was right next to the bar.
That was the venue that we went to that one time. Great food, very loud though. And I think that night they sang happy birthday 3 times to some people like in the bar area with the big bucket, like bomb, bomb, bomb. So it's a little distracting.
Great place. I mean, we're always looking for sponsors. Tuckaway Tavern, love the tips, but not the greatest location for financial education. So that was a missed connection at that time, right? But then shortly thereafter, we saw you a second time down the road, right? And then the rest.
It was a few years later, but it was the right time for us. That was for sure. And I think the services as a whole that Arcadia offers are so much broader that that's a real benefit too.
Well, I want to go back further in time here and kind of get your origin story. So we can start with either one of you. I don't think you grew up in the same time or place, right? So where do you both individually hail from here?
I was born in Massachusetts, but grew up in Ohio, and then came back to Massachusetts when my dad lost his job. And eventually he got another position, and then it brought him to New Hampshire.
Okay.
And then, so in high school, I spent the end of 8th grade and then high school in Goffstown.
Okay. What about you, Tom? You seem too nice to have been born in Massachusetts.
No, I was born in New Hampshire, grew up in Goffstown, have lived here my entire life. So all 47 years or 67 years I've been here, and I love it here. So
what would you say some of your biggest memories are from childhood growing up, whether it be memories of your siblings or school, anything that just stands out in particular to either one of you?
For me, mine's very laid back, a very calm, basically a calm life. I have 5 brothers, and, so that type of thing, always, you compete with each other, but that was always, grew up on a quiet street with a bunch of friends and, kids my age, did crazy things as kids too.
So your family had 6 boys?
There were 6 of us.
Your
yeah.
poor mother.
Well, my mother had 7 actually, because my father was still alive. So yeah, there was 7 boys in the family. Is what she always used to say.
Where did you fall in the birth order?
I was in the middle.
Right in the middle
So-
of that.
4th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes, when you said you had a calm upbringing, I wouldn't say that. They were wild.
Well, no,
No, but that's for boys. That's calm. That's what keeps you.
What do you remember about growing up in a household with that many boys in it?
We had one bathroom. My grandparents lived downstairs, so
Full house.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We lived in a big 2-family. My brother still owns that house today. For many years, I slept in the attic, and for a few years, I slept downstairs at my grandparents. And as they got older, we would kind of rotate back and forth. You know, we thought they were keeping an eye on us, but we were actually keeping an eye on them. So, but yeah, it was just a big family type of thing. And some of the neighborhood kids, they were big families too. So we lived on a street where you could walk, I mean, a small town where you could walk everywhere and, walk to the stores and, yeah, walk to school, hitchhike to school, which was only a mile away. But as you got into high school, you hitchhiked. So
What did your parents do for work?
what did my
What did your parents do for work?
My mother was a stay-at-home mom, obviously. My father worked in a wholesale drug company, so they would basically supply all the drugstores in northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, and northern New Hampshire.
Okay. Back when there were individual privately run
Correct.
pharmacies, right?
Correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, my father worked very hard. He would leave on a Friday night and drive to Vermont, stay overnight and come back Saturday morning just to make an extra like $30 because that was, there were 6 of us. So we all learned to make a buck.
What was a good time like with your family? What would you and your parents do to have fun or go on vacation?
I mean, we would all pack in a car. We would drive to Newfound Lake. We would spend Father's Day there sometimes. My cousins would come up from Connecticut. We would spend the whole Thanksgiving weekend together, as kids do, play football. And, we had a yard that basically had a baseball diamond in it and a football field down the middle. So my father would just mow the outside because that's all the grass that was in our yard because it was always chewed up. So it was just one of those things.
Now,
That's
Tracy,
awesome.
can we rank him and his brothers? Who was the smartest of the lot?
Honestly, they really were all smart, but hands-on smart,
Yeah.
figuring things out. Tom was financially on top of everything, much younger and sooner than his brothers. He was earning a living. He was the one the neighbors would call to do the job because he listened to what they said and did it as they wanted. And I think even as an adult, his brothers looked to him for financial and business advice because Tom was the first to go out on his own, starting his own business. And then several of the others did after, once they kind of saw that how he went about doing it and that he was successful. And, it's a nervous, kind of a nerve-wracking thing to do, leave your job and start your own company. But
Did you
so-
nab the best looking brother as well?
Oh, I 100%.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So let's switch it over to you for a second. You went out to Ohio, I'm assuming, because of dad's work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He was in the insurance industry, like an underwriter and that sort of thing.
There's a lot of insurance companies out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, not a lot of
And-
people know that.
So a couple different jobs within Ohio, moved a couple times. I was very young and I was born in Springfield, Mass, but stayed in Ohio until 8th grade.
Okay.
And then
You have siblings?
I'm the middle of 5,
Okay.
big age gap. The oldest was 13 years older than I was. My older sister's 7 years older. Then I have a younger brother, 1.5 years, and then a sister
Oh, wow.
3
Okay.
years younger than me. So it was kind of like 2 families growing up. And then when we needed to leave Ohio because my dad had lost his job, we came back to Massachusetts to live with some family. And my older brother and sister stayed in the Midwest.
Okay.
So she was married at that point. And so then coming back and then eventually settling in New Hampshire, you didn't have that close relationship with them. But as an adult, my relationship with my sister is really good. But we still live a long way apart. But it's still a really nice relationship. But in Ohio, my mother's parents lived there too, so that was wonderful. And they were real helpful to do some of the fun extra things. We got a membership to this lake called Walton Lake that had swim lessons and playgrounds and beach, all kinds of activities to do there. So that was every summer, a lot of time spent there, because once you had the membership for the year, you could go unlimited times. And so that's a lot of, as looking back, the fun memories that we had. And the friends too, because it was a very small town as well. And another thing that we found we had in common is we always lived in multifamily homes, not necessarily with other family members, but we had a two-family, or, lived in a duplexes, or, and then when we bought our first house, we bought a two-family. And our first apartment was, in a two-family. So
That's funny.
yeah,
So you were
it's just-
experienced from living that
exactly.
way for so long, right?
That was something we were used to.
We still live that way today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've always lived in a two-family.
Yeah, it seems pretty common that a lot of the people that we have discussions with, that they grew up with bigger families of more modest means compared to what people experience today. Anything stand out to you about kind of growing up that way, or maybe how it affected you? Or
I did, babysit and things. You had to be responsible. You had to earn the money from either your allowance or something if you wanted it. I don't think we had a lot either, but didn't necessarily need a lot. It felt like you played outside. I can remember my two good friends going to their homes, them coming. There's a big group of girls from school. So it was simpler in a way. I don't remember being inside. I mean, there wasn't TVs in every room. There wasn't cell phones. There wasn't any other activities in that regard. So you played a lot of games, or I played dolls a lot. That was my interest. I had two sisters who neither one of them cared about playing with Barbies or dolls, but that was my niche, I guess. So my grandmother would make all the specialized clothes for the Barbies.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
neat.
it was. I still have them. And Tanya,
That's
and our
awesome.
our daughter was not a Barbie
Oh,
girl,
no.
so it's like I still have them.
Yeah, hold on to them. It is funny when you think about, the economic situation back then. They had bigger families, not as much money go around. Often, my dad was the only one working. And then, nowadays, I think families, certainly have more than they did back then. But then kids are in dance competitions and travel baseball, and they're spending all this money. And most of our clients we talk to are every summer we just go outside and, or get a membership to the lake and just have such awesome upbringing on, a lot less money than, they're spending nowadays on kids.
That's true. And I don't think the focus, our parents loved us, but I don't think the focus was solely on us. It wasn't how to make your child happy. And so there's just some differences now, even from how we were with our daughter. And it's the perspective and your focus is just a little bit different, because they did only have one income, and they did have to make ends meet. And I didn't see issue until my dad lost his job. And then that was the first time I realized that we were on food stamps, and how my mother would try to not make it a big deal and keep it really low key. And then we moved, and we were starting a new school, and I think I wanted something for back to school closers, and she still made it happen. And that stuck with me because I thought she worked to make it and to make me happy because of the transition we had to go through.
Do you remember some of the tricks that she maybe had to pull to make it all work during that time?
She would do a second job. Like they had a cleaning business as a side job. And so she would be with us kind of during the day or, but worked around that. I can remember it was some of the municipal buildings they cleaned, like the courthouse was one. And so we would periodically have to go if my older sister wasn't there to watch us, and we would go and help them. And then you'd sit at the bench and you'd lift up the gavel, and those were
really
were
neat.
fun. Yes. We had to go with them because they didn't have any place else for us to stay. But to us, it was an adventure to go.
So that's why I'm so regimented. She
That's
keeps
right.
me, the gavel hits. And
So I was going to ask a little bit about first jobs. It sounds like for you, Tracy, there was babysitting, I heard,
Mhm.
right? Helping out mom. Tom, what was your first gig? Because you're a handy guy. I have to imagine you got an interesting origin story here.
we started off just shoveling snow. I delivered newspapers. So back in the day when, newspapers would be delivered Monday through Friday, would be delivered in the afternoon. And then Saturday and Sunday, they would be delivered in the morning. So when I was old enough to be able to get a paper route, I went from shoveling to that. But I also kept the shoveling part. But same thing, growing up with just a few, my mother not working outside the house and my father was the only breadwinner, or money person taking money in. My mother would basically say, if you want this, you need to get it yourself. And so it was kind of one of those things that was like, okay, she didn't have any favoritisms to any one of my brothers. So we all did that process, which was very handy for me because I just learned at an early age. If you really wanted something, then you just went out and, just made a few bucks and bought it. And then from there, once you got done using it, it just got passed on to your younger brothers, no sisters, but, and that was kind of how I started. And then from there, when I was probably a freshman in high school, I started working at the school, as a custodian. So I was working as a part-time custodian, but it allowed me to play basketball and play all the sports at school because I could buy my own equipment and things like that. And so that just kind of evolved into what I do now. And it kind of varied off being a self-employed person into the corporate world for a while. But after that, it was like, there's too many bosses telling me what to do.
Too much travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I was
awesome.
just constantly traveling. So,
All right, so we're going to move forward a little bit here, and one of you will have to take responsibility for this one because it's an important one. How did you two meet?
His friend liked my next door neighbor and had a old Volvo, and I could hear it coming up the hill. And so I had met his friend and a couple of other friends that had come and gone when they would come over. Our neighbor played the guitar and things like that. So it was always just a fun, casual setting. And this particular time, Tom was with his friend, and I went out when I heard the car come up the street, and I said, "Oh, Robin's not home." And they said, "Well, that's okay." And they stayed and visited with me. And then Tom kept coming back. And so
Was it love at first sight?
How old were you two?
I was 14. I was the summer before freshman year in high school.
Okay.
Okay.
and I was going into my senior year in high school.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So her mother was not super supportive of that whole idea,
Right.
but her father quickly, I softened him up real quick because I could fix stuff around the house, and he's
Okay.
like, yeah, we can keep this kid around.
Right.
He's-
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Very
hair down to
valuable.
here, and but
So at what point, because there was some resistance by mom, when at one point were you an item, would you say?
Freshman year, she set the guidelines. I guess she talked to my aunt and said she was concerned. And we were 2.5 years apart, but, a freshman to a senior in high school is a big gap as far as maturity goes and everything. And my aunt said, well, just set the guidelines. If she doesn't abide by them, then you've got some leverage. But if you just tell her no and don't have any real reason, and she wants to see him anyway, then she'll do it behind your back. So
It's great advice.
it was.
Yeah.
And so she did. So we had to,
I was always respectful. I always
you were.
followed the guidelines, and
I had, my curfew. I had an 11 o'clock curfew that I think I kept all through high school. I could have probably changed it. I just,
You're like,
11's
yeah,
pretty
whatever.
generous.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I gotta give in.
on the weekends, not
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
the week.
Yeah.
And we couldn't see each other during the week that first year. Like we couldn't go out at night or anything like that. And then initially we had to go with other people. We could, just the two of
Correct.
us
Correct.
couldn't go out.
Yeah.
You were chaperoned.
Yeah.
In
Cool.
essence.
Yeah. Okay.
And we always followed those rules. We never really, it was like, okay, we want to be together. So that's, that was minor compared to not being together. So
So how did it work after you graduated, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens at that point?
I went to work and she finished school, and we had talked about getting married. And one of the stipulations was that her father said, because she had already started college, and one of the stipulations was, I don't mind you getting married as long as she finishes school. And I said, that's not a problem. And she didn't particularly care for it sometimes, because we would get home and it's like, no, you got homework to do. And, I might be going out or something, but she would stay, go. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, and we had one room just for her to do schoolwork. And so she ended up getting her bachelor's and
Ultimately, associates, and then a few years later, bachelor's, because at that time, companies did a really good tuition reimbursement program.
but you were the first in your household to get a college education, and that was important to her father. And I felt, okay, that's minor, we can do that. And so we got married, and she finished school.
Yep.
Was
and
that always in
eventually-
education? Is that what you went to school for?
My first was with Hester College, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's executive secretarial science. And so we got married between my first and second year. And then I got a job with Merchants National Bank, which is now ultimately part of Citizens throughout the years of transition. And I worked there as a teller in customer service in college, and then worked in human resources. And then as they kept bringing on different branches, the bank started to really go from the small community banks to, larger. A lot of my job was to help employees transition, learn about the benefits of the new bank they were becoming a part of, and things like that. And then, so I was taking classes then, and then just a change in management in my department at the bank was time for me to look for something else. Worked for Associated Grocers for a couple of years. And when I was with Associated Grocers, continued taking some classes. And my old boss from the bank had retired, but his wife was in real estate, and Coors Brewing Company was starting to expand east of the Mississippi and wanted to open the division offices and start selling the product. And so she contacted me, and I interviewed and became the office manager for Coors when they first came to New England and upstate New York, and worked for them for 10 years. And then after they did all their expansion, they were ready to kind of reevaluate. They had division offices all over the place and sales reps and everything. And now that they'd saturated, they'd reached their market goals, they started going down to just 5 regional offices across the country instead of the 13 divisions. So I got a great severance package. And at that point, I'd already gotten a bachelor's degree in business administration with a minor in education, but just never student taught. So we talked about it, and Tanya was 6 at that point. And so taking the severance package was 4 weeks for every year I worked there. So I got 40 weeks severance, which is unheard of. That was fantastic. So we used that, and I went for the master's degree in business and marketing education, and then student taught at Pinkerton and got a job there and retired from there.
You made the rounds.
That's like so many different careers. I was like, oh, you messing with education. You're like, oh, no, not for a while.
Nope, not until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
It seems things always seem to just fall in place because you weren't really looking for anything, but it was just like, okay, our daughter's 6 years old, and the beer business is tough because, it looks glamorous, but we went a lot of different places. I mean, I've been to Daytona, we've been to Talladega, these big racetracks around the country, Indianapolis and things like that, but it's always on a weekend. She's working and I'm enjoying all this. So as you have a 6-year-old, it's like, okay, do we really want our daughter to grow up in a beer business? Because you're constantly going and things like that. So that was kind of but it was one of those things. It was like, okay, now we're reorganizing a little bit. And they offered a severance package. Said, okay, we'll take that opportunity. And that's our whole life.
and the other piece, I felt like out of all my job changes, only one of them I got by knocking on the door. All the rest were from knowing somebody or talking so the whole networking piece that we talked to kids that I especially did in my role at Pinkerton is talking to them is your network. Everybody you meet, always remember you may meet them again. So leave with a good impression because they may be saying something good about you or not. And then that may help your path or not. So we were lucky that way.
Yeah, we were both lucky that way.
This
So,
is before LinkedIn and all social media. Really,
Yes,
too.
that's the
You're
truth.
the original
That's the
networker.
truth.
that was the social media back then without
Yeah.
the actual network to
Sure.
put it all together.
Okay.
So,
So you guys married pretty young,
Yes.
right? And you had grown up pretty modestly. What do you remember about your own formative years in terms of starting a family, beginning your careers? What was it like for you building all of that? And maybe too, could you describe like what your relationship with money was like when you were first married and kind of figuring things out?
Well, at the beginning, if you remember, because I worked at a bank, you'd get incentives by getting people to open bank accounts or credit cards and different things. So I had my own accounts, he had his own accounts, and we kept our money separate. And even though I worked in a bank and I worked in customer service, I could balance somebody else's account, but sometimes I couldn't balance my own. And so finally, he said, I think if we want some certain goals, if we want to reach some things, we'd be better off if we put our money together and have it in one. And so in our probably mid-20s, I would say we no longer kept separate accounts. Everything was merged.
and I learned to budget through my mother. My mother would 6 kids, and so my father would come home and say, here's his paycheck. He would just hand her a thing of cash, and she had an envelope system that she would just put money in. So much for this, so much
Yep,
for that.
for this
so much
bill, for the groceries.
And then once a month she would rob Peter, pay Paul, and that's how it worked.
My grandmother used envelopes too. It's
Yeah.
so funny you say that.
It's a good system.
Yeah.
Well, and we still bank at DCU, and they use envelopes, but
Yeah.
they're electronic envelopes. So I taught my daughter the same way, but that's how I learned to budget. So as we got older and we started putting money together, I was always one. We didn't mind buying things, but I was kind of more of a person to say, okay, is this really an asset to buy that's going to help us or hurt us? Cars don't help, so we would buy secondhand cars. And I remember her buying her a car where she was in high school. I was out of high school, so I bought a 67 Camaro for $125 and sprayed it, painted it, cleaned it all up. And she was driving it to school. It's like, I don't have to take the bus. I'm a junior. I can drive this car to school.
That's awesome.
Somebody offered me $600 and that car was gone.
Right.
And I was on that list for a while because she had to go back to taking the bus.
Yeah.
But we made a few $100.
Oh,
and,
that's a good ROI right there.
yeah. So that went in the bank. And So from that, and then as we put money together, and so at one time we loved to ski. And at one time it was like, if we do this, we could buy a ski condo. And so that kind of started our investing process as we were younger. So we ended up buying a ski condo, but we figured out that we didn't have to pay for it. We rented it when we weren't using it. And uh, so at the end, we kept it for 10 years, and my daughter was getting closer to getting out of high school and going to college. And we sold it, made a bundle of money, and we invested that money. And so we ended up just paying my daughter's college cash and
Good for you
did it that
guys.
way. So
You just something you said jogged my memory in that you think about your parents' generation. I think a lot of times, a lot of the future planning belonged to women because the guy was working, mom was often stay at home. And really the fanciest thing that moms and dads did in their time was bank, right? That's where most people's money was. And then
correct.
you think about your generation, I think yours was the first to get thrust into there's 401ks and mutual funds. Do you remember transitioning from that phase where everything was maybe bank oriented to this more foreign looking stuff with, funds and Wall Street? Do you have any memories around starting to dabble in some of that?
Yeah. I mean, I was always curious. So I remember back maybe in my early 20s, I don't remember the name of the company. It was like Bank America. They were like an investment group, and I remember they were on Queen City Ave, and they would put out these flyers like, if you put $2,000 away every year for 10 years, and if you stop and the person later started again, you would have more money if you started earlier. And that always stuck with me. It's like invest early. And so we always did that. We started early.
Did savings bonds.
Yeah, for a while, and then realized that wasn't enough. And then we started working for companies that had 401ks, um, and then I never really knew enough about the stock market. I mean, I got into a few investment groups, just friends of ours that, we did it as kind of a fun thing. And we would make money, we'd kind of try to figure out stocks. And then I realized people get paid to do that. And as long as they could make me money more than I could make at the bank, that's why we started looking for different people.
I do think when I was working for Coors, they did have good benefits and investing options and things like that. And we did the most I think we could. We at the time financially, looking back, we wished we had put more away because we did benefit greatly from that. But that was you did pay attention because he paid attention. We weren't afraid to put money into the 401ks or the Roths. And then when you started working on your own, we did some of the investments that you could do if you were self-employed.
Right. We did some IRAs that, and some Roth IRAs and things like that. But yeah, we never shied away from it. Even at an early age, we knew that if we didn't save money, most people didn't care, whether we saved money or not, we would end up with Social Security if we didn't do anything else. So that's kind of how we started. But we quickly learned too that we got out of debt early. We paid our house off very early. We didn't really I mean, we still traveled, we still skied, but we would look at things as an investment. That's how we ended up with the place in Vermont, which turned out to be a very good investment because we've parlayed that money all the way along, and I kind of laugh and I tell my daughter that, we turned basically a $16,000 investment into $750,000 just by parlaying it along and just taking, not major risk, but just calculated risk. Everything's calculated.
I don't want to skim over this part of your lives too quickly. We will move on in a second, but we talked a little bit about you marrying young. So you started young and you have a family at some point. Are there any memories that stand out to you most when you think of, say, your daughter or just raising a family when you were doing it? Something that you're either most proud of or that when you like reminisce, just like really puts a smile on your face? Anything at all that stands out there?
We were close with, and we are close with our families and the cousins, and then, friends of ours that were neighbors that had kids. We did spend a lot of time with them over the years, and the girls grew up together. Tanya was an only child, so it was important to us that she had connections like that with other people and friendships and family
Did you raise
bonds.
her in Goffstown as well, or did
Nope.
you guys move?
We our first apartment was in Pinardville. We were there for 2 years, and then we bought our house in Manchester. And we had looked. We were digressing just a little bit. We had looked at houses when we were ready, and this was well before Tanya was born. And he plowed snow. It was, a cash business.
Mhm.
And
sorry. This could be public. No.
Yeah, we can edit that out, Tom.
and I was part-time, because I'd been in college and was only working part-time. So we didn't have a strong financial history.
Sure. To get
And
approved for the mortgages and whatnot.
so getting a house, we got a house, was going to be new construction.
Well, we actually started in the 80s, so the interest rates were 20%.
Yeah.
And we first had looked at it, and our belief is things always work out for a reason, and they always did. So we had found this house on a lake, but it had no heating system in it, and it was inexpensive. It was like a $20,000 house. It had an acre and a half of land, and we said, we can do this. And we figured it all out, went to the bank, and they said, you can't do this. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I have some furnace in it. I said, I know, I'm going to put one in. It's not a big deal. I can do that. And they wouldn't let us buy it.
No.
So that kind of felt,
Bummer.
yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of fell
It
through.
does happen for a reason,
Yeah.
Then the
Not a
next,
good reason, though.
No,
No.
the next house we picked, new construction, picked all the furnishings, lights, cabinetry. And then they said we didn't qualify financially, again, because of
Yeah.
the makeup
we didn't have
of
enough-
our
yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough taxable income, Tom.
Okay.
You know?
That's right, Mike.
And
Who thought taxes were going to
Yes.
be a good thing one day?
but that worked out because that house ended up not being well constructed,
Oh, wow.
and we
Lot lines were over each other, so the whole development was a mess.
Yeah.
so then it
Worked out for a reason.
Well,
I
it
think we
dodged,
need to,
yeah.
to look for multifamily,
Yeah.
and the home we found had some work done to it, but needed a lot of work. And my mother said, "I can't believe you're moving my daughter into that dump." And
And we're still there today.
Right?
but he did all kinds of work over the years, added a large addition, still have a tenant upstairs, and
Yeah.
we've talked at times about moving, but then we said,
Why?
why?
It's all paid off.
It's
It
convenient
gives us
to
an income.
everything. Yes.
Yep.
We didn't need a bigger house. We didn't need a lot more to take care of. So that worked out.
So you mentioned that along your journey, you're paying attention, you're trying to do things on your own, and then people start specializing in this stuff. And I was interested in going through the notes on your situation. It sounds like you'd attempted to have a couple different relationships with people that would help you financially, but sometimes those relationships didn't either go too well or you felt like something was missing. Without slandering any individuals or companies, could you describe that journey in trying to find, the help that you were looking for and maybe why it didn't work out initially?
Well, we knew we needed to save money. And so that was a given. And everybody that when we first started with people that help with financially, same thing. You need to save, you need to save, you need to save.
And when did
it's
this
like,
start, would you say, Tom, that you started looking for other help?
well, we started in the 30s, but then when we were probably in our late 40s, early 50s, we started saying, okay, we're starting to put some money away here. And, what does it look like to retire? And every time we asked, It was like, okay, how do we stop saving eventually? And it's like, yeah, we'll worry about that. And, you need to get into this annuity and you need to do this. And then,
Or you need long-term care insurance and some other.
that was the when we really started looking. So somebody had said to us, you really need to get long-term care insurance. And it was ridiculous cost, but they kept pushing that. And I'm going, I don't want to do that, and all of a sudden nobody was listening to us. It's just, we want your money, but we don't want to listen to you.
And our advisor was moving from company to company.
That happened twice.
And with that advisor, liked him for a long time, but then his goals weren't aligning with our goals.
All of a sudden, he had a new quota somewhere else, and
It
then he
may
was
have
pitching a new
been-
product.
Yeah.
It may have been, and it just didn't feel like
They weren't looking out for our interest.
And we were in a new stage of our life too.
Correct.
So then we started to search and try to find someone that would help us in that retirement stage, because we were in our 50s. We did increase my contribution to the max that you could at that stage, like I forget the term for when you're close to retirement, or once you hit 55, you can bump up, yes, your catch-up years. And so now it was, so we did meet with someone that we learned some things from, and we started really budgeting. Tom was always good at knowing where the money was and budgeting in a broad sense, but I had never participated in it a lot. And that's when we said, okay, if you want to retire at 60, for me, we need to really know where our money is going. And so we started writing everything down, even if it was Dunkin' Donuts, if it was filling up gas, our big bills, our little spending. And then in Google, I found like a budget sheet, and you could.
Just talking about budgeting, was that something that had been advised that you do, or was that thrust upon
Yes,
yourself? Okay.
it was advised.
Did you feel like you ever struggled with managing your spending?
I think I would sneak, one thing we did do is, because when we had merged our funds from years ago, as we set the goals to get the condo in Vermont and other goals that we had, trips to take and whatever, it was good to have it together. But then I would have, $40 cash for the week, to use as I wanted, buy lunch or whatever. But then you start to feel like, oh, am I cheating by buying, something I don't really need with my cash, or asking for extra or what have you? And, or when you look back at the week and you didn't remember where any of that petty cash went to. So writing it down was a worthwhile exercise. And we said to each other, or you probably really said to me more, don't feel guilty. I'm not going to judge you on anything that you purchased, and
Right.
don't judge me.
It wasn't a tit for tat.
Yes.
Right.
We
Yes.
just wanted to know, when you spend $100,000 a year, and at the end of the year, you can kind of justify where 50,000 went. It's like, okay, where did this money go? And it's like,
Did anything surprising come out of your budgeting exercises?
Yes and no. I think it did make us reanalyze, when you start to realize how much money certain things cost that you just take for granted because you use it all the time, cable or
or do we really need this?
yes, certain
know,
other
it's like-
things.
You have an HBO subscription. It's like, I never watch HBO. It's like, get rid of it. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, you get rid of it, and it's like, doesn't affect your life 1 second. So those type of things, I think, is what the budgeting's helped us a lot with.
Yes.
Just to kind of realize, like, you waste money.
Or reevaluate, like right now, insurances, for your cars and your home and his business, and you've got it all laying there on paper very clearly as that line item insurance. and how much that is. And so we're working on that right now, trying to look at options. We've worked with our insurance agent in the past, and he's helped us, but now we realize we have to do more homework ourselves to find
That's hard, yeah.
or to make cuts.
Right. It's like, okay, I need this insurance, but is this the best coverage or how expensive it
Correct.
is?
Yeah.
You know, we do that with like energy suppliers sometimes. You know,
Correct.
we're like,
Yeah.
how much are we paying for this? Like, if we switch over someone else, you could save more money. So,
Yes.
But in the
Being
everyday
knowledgeable.
rat race, you just write the checks and off it goes, and you don't really stop to look at things. And that was one of the bigger things from the budgeting, or not we don't call it a budget. It's just a spending sheet. And then from there you say, okay, we spend, $6,000 a year on cell phones and TV. It's like, well, do we really watch that much TV? It's like, this is foolish, but it makes you aware of all the other marketing companies out there that are vying for your dollar. And so it's like, yeah.
Now, Tracy, between the two of you, you retired first. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. What was that like approaching retirement? How did you know it was time? How'd you prepare yourself? What did that look like?
My father and my oldest brother both passed away in their early 60s. And so I think it was a psychological decision. My older sister retired in her early 60s, more or less the same reason, she said. Our mom lived into her 90s, and was great, but it just was something you had to get over that hump of time. And so we talked about it, and I loved my job. But it was exhausting also. And there were, a lot of events and nights and a lot of hours, very early starts to the day. I oversaw, our departments when the staff was out sick, and so it was just getting to that point in my life physically, I think, as much to say, I think we were ready. And we put in for retirement in 2019, the fall. And then COVID happened in January, February, March of 2020. And that was the year I was retiring. So
It's a rough year to retire.
it was. There are pros and cons, I suppose. There was somebody else that I worked with that took back his retirement request because his investments took a hit and he was really concerned. And I didn't even realize that was an option. I may have reevaluated myself and asked to stay another year if I realized I could have, I guess. Or in hindsight, I would have.
It's kind of good you didn't figure it
I
out.
was going to say, maybe
Yeah.
it's a blessing you didn't know that was an option.
I
You would have been
know.
working longer than
That's true. I would have.
Yeah, and the whole year where everything was closed, so it's not like we did a whole bunch of things.
Right.
Instead of being home, she could have just, like you said, could have just stayed at work, and it would have.
Yeah, it was. So but it worked. It worked out, and so you work on. In this case, I was able to go down and visit my mom more. My younger sister lived with her and was helping there, but that was really nice. And Tom's folks, we helped. Your mom, I think, had already passed away, but his dad, and we did some things with Tanya, and helping with crew and our other grandkids, and
Now, Tom didn't retire for another 3 years after you, correct? I thought by the notes I saw that you retired at the end of 23.
Yeah, I mean, I still work part-time.
You didn't want to be stuck at home with Tracy?
No, I just.
You can do projects for other people, or you can do projects for
Although
Tracy.
that's
yes, well, that's true. We have one of those projects at the house starting soon.
Yeah. I'm always up. I've been an early riser all my life, so I like to get up and go out and do things. And so being self-employed, it was just hard for me to stop. It wasn't the money as much as just, more of the identity, I guess, of, I needed something to do. And, like to golf, but I'm not a golfer that could golf 7 days a week. It's just not one of those things. And so I guess, I still do a few days a week now, if that, but it's getting easier now. It's kind of, it's like, no, I could do this. I could getting up and reading the paper in the morning instead of reading it when I get home and things like that.
He still has a small plow route too in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this. I think stereotypically men struggle a little bit with retirement, being task oriented. We like to get up and turn knobs and bang hammers, right? And when that's taken from us, we can go idle pretty quickly. So you've been retired a little over a year now, Tom. How have you been able to keep yourself busy?
Well, I still do a little bit of it, but
By working.
more parts around the house. I'm doing more stuff around the house, but we're traveling. We
Yeah.
do more. So what ends up happening is Tracy just says, I really want to see Mark and Kelly. So it's like, okay. So she books an appointment and it's like, oh, we got to go to New York. It's like, okay, just give me the dates and I'll put them in a calendar. And then it's like, okay, we're going to go. My brother says, we're going to go to Florida and want to know if we want to go with him. It's like, okay, just book the dates. And so that's her job now, is booking airline flights and finding hotel rooms. And
She's a travel agent for you guys.
but it for me, it's a lot easier. It's like, just put it in and I'll pencil that time out. And now that we bought a place in Maine, it's just easier for me to say, you know what? I really don't need to do this anymore. And,
It sounds like you made a bit of a transition, because it sounds like Tom was the planner, kind of the one to point out we need to save or we need a budget, we need to
Yes.
combine stuff. And now maybe you're wearing that hat a little bit to.
We definitely do. I keep track of all of our expenses. I record them, put them in the spreadsheet. And then so
plans,
we're
vacations.
balancing. Yeah, we're balancing those things out.
You've had a busy year too. I recall seeing that you've done some travel and seen some family. Is anything stand out, say, that you've done over the last year where you've created the best memories? Or
We have been campers for a long, long time with friends and family, and all the kids grew up doing that. And then as adults, we did that with a different group of people. And at one point, we got presented this piece of property in Wells, and we were not looking to become seasonal campers, but we just all of a sudden felt we should check it out. We have nothing to lose, and we did, and luckily
It fell in.
really
Right
felt
timing.
right.
Yeah.
And financially, we were in a good place. And I think for us, because this has been the case over and over throughout the years, because we have savings, when an opportunity presents itself, it makes it a little easier to pull the trigger. We do analyze. Tom's a really, really big analyzer as far as should we do something as the risk to, more than we
you mean
should.
he's a
or-
pain?
It can, well, it can be. It can be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We're not, what do they call the spenders that just do it on the spur of the moment? We're not reflex and impulsive buyers.
Yes.
So, and working with Arcadia, and starting off with Justin, when we went over our plans, says, okay, and Justin was kind of like, how much you guys think you'll need at retirement? Tracy pulls out a spreadsheet and says, well, this is what we spend right now. This is what we spend the last couple of years. And Justin goes, yeah, I don't know why you guys are working. And it's like, well, we like to do that. But he says, okay, that's fine, but you don't have to. And then as he got going, it was like, yeah, you really need to spend some money. And it's like, okay, but no one's, especially financial advisors, have never told us that before. And that kind of really resonated with us. And so as we kind of go through our journey of life, and when these things come up, the opportunities, it's like, okay, we really can do that. It's not a big deal. And, we might run it through Justin, and Justin says, yeah, don't, just call me. we'll make it happen. And so you guys are all set. And it's nice to go through every year and go through and say, you're fine.
Because we were raised in that time where you had to be careful and watch
Yep.
your pennies, and just the way we've always been is careful. It's taken several times of being told it's okay. You can cut back on working. You can spend more money, or you can do more things, travel more, what have you.
Because neither one of our sets of parents, had saved enough money to do the things that we do. And even our daughter kind of looks at us every now and then and says, do you realize how much money you're spending? And it's like, well, it's just your inheritance. But anyway.
Right.
And so we do a net worth statement. We give it to her. It's the same thing as after going through what we went through this year, is to make sure that she understands where we are, so she doesn't have to think about taking care of us as we get older. And so that makes her concentrate on her life more to be able to take care of herself. And so
I think it's interesting in that your parents' generation, a lot of them experienced the Depression. And for a lot of them, that made them reluctant to enjoy their own money. And then you get to say your generation, that's not an influence, but you hear a lot of what if type of stuff. What if I end up in the nursing home? What if the market crashes? And because of these perennial what ifs, people are reluctant to spend money. And the conversation I think that shocks people the most that we have around here is, you should spend more. You should enjoy this. I mean, you worked really hard for it, right? At what point are you going to start living every day like it's Saturday? I would hate for people to have to go through, Tracy, what you did for the light bulb to go off. But you mentioned there was some deaths in the family. And the whole Saturday thing for us is this recognition that your most precious resource is time.
Yes.
Right? So you have to be fearless enough to live, right? And sometimes living and enjoying yourself, whether it's seeing family or going on adventures, you got to spend a couple of bucks. So trying to keep people in this headspace where they feel unafraid and they can spend and enjoy themselves and stay there, especially where the headlines today just seem to get more and more like lunatic by the day, right?
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's like the challenge for us here is to try to keep those two things married if you can, recognizing that what you do with your time is so important, and then just go and enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Yes. And it really was it having the different balances shared with us, like the financial piece, the planning, the investing, but the long-term planning as far as your trusts and things like that. That's important. And we're realizing, because of the age we're getting to, and then our own family members and siblings and in-laws are having, illnesses and what have you, we don't want to burden our family with that should something unexpected happen. And so we're, trying to communicate a lot more on those factors.
Yeah. And I what I like about here, having worked through that whole plan, knowing that you'd live every day like it's Saturday, when the market drops like it has in the last couple months, it doesn't bother me at all. It's so interesting. And we are still invested. Some of our portfolio is invested in very aggressive funds. And it's like, yeah, it's going to drop, but we don't need that money. We don't have to have that money. The balance is there. And the way that Justin set it up, it was like, we have the streams of income coming in, and he looks at everything that we did, and he takes all that stuff into consideration and says, yeah, no, you can still spend money. If you need more money, let me know and we'll send it to you. So it's nice.
Now, if we're looking back years from now and reflecting on retirement, what sort of things would you want to have said, or, to say that you've accomplished or done, to say that you've nailed retirement? So what are we going to have to do here? What's our punch list, folks, for living every day like it's Saturday and knocking retirement out of the park? How would you define that?
Some people have retirement, real clear retirement goals, and I don't think that I did. And I don't know if I'm happy that I did or not. Sometimes I wish I committed to something more, maybe volunteering or whatever. But then other points, I don't want to have to be responsible to anyone else. So I have that come back and forth sometimes as far as, well, should I be doing more with this time that I have? And then other times I say, nah.
Right.
So
You're like, this is pretty good.
exactly. But I'm still back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I just like the time. To me, it's like this week. It's like, oh, cruise off on Friday. Great. Gonna come over and sleep over, and we're gonna plan a day on Friday, but we have that flexibility to do that. Do I like working? Absolutely. Do I like relaxing? Absolutely. But it's not, I guess my retirement looks like to be free. I don't have any other worries. I don't have to work if I don't want to work. I can change our schedule anytime we want. If we're planning a trip, we plan a trip. We take the summers off. We go to Maine. But if somebody needs us back here for a week, we come back for a week. It's our flexibility. To have that flexibility is just so rewarding to us,
We
or
don't
to me
worry a
anyways.
lot about the future, but you also have to be conscious that it's coming, because as you do get older, our ability to do some of the things as freely as we do now may not happen, not for perhaps financial reasons, but physical reasons or what have you. So it is important to make better, for me, I think, better use of my time sometimes, because I can do those things now.
You're both talking about freedom. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know, in America, everybody's got all these obligations and stresses, and, they're running around crazy. And I can imagine that just having a clean slate, when you wake up, what am I going to do today? That actually sounds really attractive.
Yes.
So,
Well, to me, it almost feels like going back to my childhood, because when we got up in the morning during the summer and was no school, it's like, what are we going to do today? It's like, well, there's some friends around. Let's go play baseball, or let's go to the park. And, we had this great big park, and it's like, let's just do those things. And you did them. And there was no nervousness or anxiety to have to get something done. It just, that's what the day. And then all of a sudden it was dark, and it's like, okay, I'm tired. I need to go to sleep. And then we'd go to bed and start all over again the next day. And that's kind of what we're doing now.
guys, this has been really great. We like to have a little bit of fun towards the end and just kind of ask some offbeat questions to kind of round things out here. Jess, do you have any in mind, or?
Well, my favorite is the concert question. So what was either the first concert or best concert that you guys went to together or independently?
I was never a big concert person, so we go to more concerts now than we've ever gone to. So we always pick out 2 or 3 concerts during the course of the year, and we go to
Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion in Guilford.
just old foreigners, and
Yes.
Eric.
Those are fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. We brought
Peter
Was it
Frank-
Foreigner you went to?
Mhm.
Nice.
Peter
Yep.
Frampton.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just some of the old stuff, and
Yes, it is.
to
It's,
see some of these artists before they pass, because they're all in their
I know.
70s. We started staying up there.
We did, and we went to Kids Bop.
Oh, that's nice. That's on the top of the list there.
That one I would have faked an illness for.
Well, but if there's somebody listening, we had a fantastic
That's great.
time.
Okay.
And-
Did you?
Yes.
That's
Glad it
great.
made to the highlight list.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to go back to something that was mentioned earlier. You sold a 67 Camaro for $600. Is
Yeah.
that chief among some
You
of your?
bought it for $100.
I
Your
bought it for
regrets here?
$150.
Was it in good condition when you let it go?
Yeah, it was all, I had reconditioned the whole thing. I had taken all the headliners out, fixed them, painted the entire body, fixed it up. It was just one of my hobbies.
Would you take that one back if you could? Tom?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that thing would be worth a fortune. Well, I should say that. It was a 6-cylinder automatic back then, but it was the old body style, which,
Yeah, it's a lot of people's dream car. Here's my question. I'd like for you to think of either maybe the best gift you ever received, or if it's easier, the best gift that you ever gave anyone. I can do favorite pizza topping if it's easier for you guys.
No, go ahead.
We're not big birthday people, or Christmas is usually not big gifts. I do think we did one year, we said we took the family and we did Jamaica with the family. We
That
did
qualifies.
Universal
Oh, yeah.
with the family and the grandkids. And
we
These
have
were different trips.
those were two different
Okay.
trips, but with the kids.
Crew was young. We just had more fun with it because Crew was young, and we had taken pamphlets of Jamaica and wrapped them all up and passed them out to all the grandkids and everything. Said, this is the last thing, you can't open this. And then Crew was probably only 3 years old, and he was just starting to talk, and so I was getting him to say, where are we going? And he go, we go to Jamaica, man. And so we had rehearsed that, and he had no clue what was going on.
I was like, I don't know.
So
He asked me that
as
question.
we
That's
got
what I
everybody
said.
at Christmas, I just turned to Crew and I said, Crew, where are we going? He goes, we going Jamaica, man.
Nice.
And all of a sudden, all the other kids started to realize, and we said, okay, you can open what you got. And they all opened it up, and they all were ecstatic. And it was, to us, that was so much fun just to be able to see their faces. Jamaica was kind of secondary, just to
Sure.
see all their faces, that they were so excited to go. And then we did the same thing with them in Florida.
For Universal.
Yeah.
I have one last question, only because you've known each other since you were teenagers. What is your best possible piece of marital advice?
We go to Jamaica. No.
Jamaica once. Yeah.
We may get frustrated or upset at times, but we really don't fight.
Yeah, we don't fight at all.
We're good communicators, and we do like spending time together. So that's definitely makes retirement more fun, because we like being together.
When you're buddies, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
tired together.
Yeah. We have the same goals and things, but yeah, we don't fight. We do communicate well. We know when to stay away from each other. We know when to be with each other, but those are all pretty much instinctive things too. You know, it's like, okay, I've been around long enough. It's time for me to go out in the garage and
Right.
do something.
Yeah, 46 years this summer
Yeah.
That's
So,
incredible.
yeah.
that we've been married, and then we went to steady 5 years before that.
Yeah. So we've known each other for 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been together for 50 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And you're both still so young.
Oh, well, thanks.
Guys, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming out and joining us for this conversation
thanks for
today. I
having
know
us.
we've had a blast. So good luck with the rest of retirement this year and all the years that are coming.
Thank you.
We're
We
gonna
look
check
forward to
in.
checking in with you guys. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, definitely.
Thanks, gang. Saturday State of Mind.
Thanks. If you liked this video and it helped you, watch another one. And don't forget to hit subscribe.